Sarah Chen sat in the hard plastic chair outside Principal Margaret Thornton's office. Her hands would not stop shaking. Through the glass window, she could see her 8-year-old son Daniel sitting in the hallway. He had his favorite blue blanket wrapped around his shoulders. The blanket was heavy and helped him feel calm when the world became too loud or too bright. Daniel looked so small sitting there alone. His dark hair fell into his eyes. He was drawing something on a piece of paper with his green crayon. Probably dinosaurs. He always drew dinosaurs when he felt scared. The office door opened. Principal Thornton stood there in her gray suit. Her face showed no emotion at all. "Ms. Chen, please come in," she said. Her voice was cold and formal. Sarah stood up. Her legs felt weak. She had worked the night shift at the hospital. She had been a nurse for 12 years. After her shift ended at 7 in the morning, she had barely made it home to change clothes before the school called. They said she needed to come in immediately for an emergency meeting. She walked into the office. The room smelled like coffee and paper. Principal Thornton sat behind her large wooden desk. She did not ask Sarah to sit down. Instead, she pushed a white envelope across the desk. "What is this?" Sarah asked. Her voice came out as a whisper. "It's an expulsion letter," Principal Thornton said. She looked at her computer screen instead of at Sarah. "Daniel is being removed from Roosevelt Elementary, effective immediately." The words hit Sarah like a punch to the stomach. "What, you can't do that?" "Daniel has been here for 3 years. He has an IEP. He has legal protections." An IEP was an individualized education program. It was a special plan that helped children with disabilities get the support they needed at school. Daniel had autism and ADHD. His brain worked differently than other children. He needed extra help sometimes. Principal Thornton finally looked at Sarah. Her eyes were hard. "Ms. Chen, we have tried everything. Daniel is a disruption to the other students. His behavior prevents them from learning." "His behavior?" Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. "He's 8 years old. He has sensory processing issues. The things that bother him are in his IEP. You're supposed to help him, not punish him." Principal Thornton opened a folder on her desk. She began reading from papers inside. October 15th, Daniel had a meltdown during the fire drill. He screamed and covered his ears. October 22nd, he knocked over the art supplies during class. November 3rd, he was humming during quiet reading time and would not stop when asked. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. The fire alarm is too loud for him. That's why he covered his ears. The art room has fluorescent lights that hurt his eyes and make him dizzy. And he hums when he concentrates. All of this is in his IEP. You know this. "We have limited resources," Principal Thornton said. She closed the folder. "We cannot devote all our attention to one child when we have 500 other students. Daniel would do better in a different environment, perhaps a special school." Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes. She would not cry. Not in front of this woman. "You mean a school far away where you don't have to deal with him? Where he doesn't bring down your test scores?" Principal Thornton's face turned red. "That's not what I said, but it's what you meant." Sarah picked up the envelope. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold it. "I know my rights. I know Daniel's rights. You can't just throw him out because he's different." "The decision is final," Principal Thornton said. She stood up. "You can appeal to the district if you wish. But for now, Daniel cannot return to this school. Please collect his belongings from his classroom." There was a soft knock on the door. Mr. Park, Daniel's teacher, opened it slowly. He was a young man with kind eyes. He looked uncomfortable. "I have Daniel's backpack and his things from his desk," Mr. Park said quietly. He would not look at Sarah. "Mr. Park," Sarah said. Her voice broke. "Please, you know Daniel. You've seen him improve. Tell her he deserves to stay." Mr. Park's face filled with sadness. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. But then he looked at Principal Thornton and closed it again. He set the backpack down and walked away. Sarah felt something break inside her. Even Daniel's teacher would not stand up for him. "This meeting is over," Principal Thornton said. "Please leave through the front entrance." Sarah picked up the backpack. It had dinosaur stickers all over it. Daniel had put them there himself. She walked out of the office. Daniel stood up when he saw her. He pushed his blanket off his shoulders. "Are we going home, Mom?" he asked. His voice was small and scared. "Yes, baby, we're going home." Sarah took his hand. It was so small in hers. They walked down the hallway. Students were in their classrooms. Some looked out through the windows. They pointed and whispered. Sarah held Daniel's hand tighter. She walked faster. When they passed the front office, the secretary looked away. When they walked by the gym, the PE teacher suddenly became very interested in his clipboard. No one would look at them. No one said goodbye to Daniel. They reached Sarah's old car in the parking lot. She helped Daniel into his seat and buckled his seatbelt. She put his backpack next to him. Then she got into the driver's seat and just sat there. "Mom," Daniel said. "Why did we leave school early?" Sarah looked at him in the mirror. His big brown eyes were full of confusion. How could she explain this to him? How could she tell him that his school did not want him anymore? "We're taking a break from school for a little while," she finally said. "Did I do something bad?" Daniel asked. His voice got very quiet. "Is it because I hummed too loud?" "I'm sorry, Mom, I'll try harder. I promise." Sarah's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. She turned around to face him. "No, Daniel. You did nothing wrong, nothing. Do you hear me?" But Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Then why can't I go to school?" Sarah had no answer. She turned back around and started the car. They drove home in silence. Daniel cried quietly in the back seat. Sarah cried too, but she tried to hide it. When they got home to their small apartment, Daniel went to his room. Sarah sat at their tiny kitchen table. She opened her laptop. She was so tired she could barely think, but she had to do something. She typed an email to the district superintendent. She wrote about everything that had happened. She wrote about Daniel's rights. She wrote about how the school failed him. She wrote that what they did was illegal. She poured all her anger and sadness into that email. Then she read it again. Her finger hovered over the send button. But she was scared. What if it made things worse? What if they laughed at her? What if no one cared? She deleted the email. Sarah put her head down on the table. She had no idea what to do. She could not afford a private school. Those schools cost thousands of dollars every month. She worked 2 jobs just to pay rent and buy food. Where would Daniel go to school now? How would she work if she had to stay home with him? She felt like she was drowning and no one could hear her screaming for help. That night, Sarah cried in the bathroom. She turned on the water so Daniel would not hear. But Daniel was not asleep. He stood outside the bathroom door. He heard everything. His mom was crying because of him. Because he was different. Because he could not be like the other kids. Daniel went back to his room. He climbed into bed with his blue blanket. He looked at his drawings of dinosaurs on the wall. Dinosaurs were strong and brave. They survived for millions of years. Daniel decided he needed to be brave too. He needed to help his mom, but he did not know how. He was only 8 years old. What could he do? He closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he thought. Tomorrow he would find a way to fix everything. He had to. His mom needed him to be strong. Outside, the night grew darker. Sarah finally came out of the bathroom. She checked on Daniel and thought he was asleep. She did not see that his eyes were still open, staring at the ceiling, his mind working on a plan he did not quite understand yet. In her own room, Sarah lay in bed staring at the same ceiling. She felt more alone than she had ever felt in her life. Not since Daniel's father left when Daniel was diagnosed had she felt this helpless. That man had walked away because he could not handle having a son who was different. Now it felt like the whole world was walking away too. Sarah did not know that everything was about to change. She did not know that her small, brave son would find a way to make people listen. She did not know that tomorrow would be the day that shocked everyone. All she knew was that tonight she had failed to protect her child. And that feeling was the worst feeling in the world. Principal Margaret Thornton arrived at Roosevelt Elementary at 7:30 in the morning. She liked being early. It gave her time to prepare for the day before the chaos of 500 children and their problems began. But when she pulled into the parking lot, she saw something that made her stop. 3 black SUVs were parked near the front entrance. Men and women in dark suits stood by the vehicles. They carried briefcases and tablets. They looked official and serious. Margaret's stomach dropped. This could not be good. She parked her car and walked toward the entrance. Her high heels clicked on the pavement. One of the women in suits saw her coming. The woman was tall with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She walked toward Margaret with confident steps. "Principal Thornton?" the woman asked. "Yes, that's me." "Can I help you?" The woman pulled out a badge and credentials. "I'm Director Patricia Williams from the State Department of Education's Civil Rights Office." We need to speak with you immediately. Margaret felt her face go pale. The State Department of Education. Civil Rights Office. This was very bad. What is this about? Margaret tried to keep her voice steady. We received a formal complaint yesterday evening regarding disability discrimination and violations of federal special education law. Director Williams said, "We are conducting an immediate compliance review of Roosevelt Elementary." A complaint? From who? Margaret's mind raced. It had to be Sarah Chen. That woman had threatened to appeal. But how did she get the state involved so fast? We cannot disclose that information yet, Director Williams said. But I need you to unlock the building. My team needs access to all records, all IEP files, and all documentation related to special education services. Margaret had no choice. She unlocked the front doors with shaking hands. The team of investigators walked in like they owned the place. They split up into different groups. Some went to the office. Some went to classrooms. Others began setting up in the conference room. I need all files related to Daniel Chen, Director Williams said. Every IEP document, every progress report, every behavioral incident report, every email, every meeting note, everything. Margaret went to her office. Her hands shook as she unlocked the filing cabinet. She pulled out Daniel's thick folder. As she looked through it, she began to realize how bad this looked. The IEP clearly stated that Daniel needed sensory breaks every hour, but there were no records of him receiving them. The IEP said he needed a quiet space for testing, but his test scores showed he took tests in the regular loud classroom. The IEP listed accommodations that should have been provided, but nothing showed they were actually done. Margaret's assistant, Mrs. Lopez, arrived at 8 o'clock. Her eyes went wide when she saw the investigators. "What's happening?" she whispered to Margaret. "We're being investigated for that Chen boy." Margaret felt anger rising. How dare that woman do this? How dare she bring the state down on the school? But underneath the anger, Margaret felt fear. Real fear. At 9 o'clock, the teachers began arriving. The investigators called them one by one into separate rooms to interview them. Mr. Park was called in first. Mr. Park sat down across from Director Williams and another investigator. His leg bounced nervously under the table. "Mr. Park, you were Daniel Chen's classroom teacher, correct?" Director Williams asked. "Yes, ma'am." "Tell me about Daniel. How was he as a student?" Mr. Park hesitated. He thought about all the times Principal Thornton had called him into her office. She had told him to document every negative thing Daniel did. She said they needed to build a case. She said Daniel was bringing down the class's test scores. She said he needed to go. But Mr. Park also remembered Daniel's smile when he finally understood a math problem. He remembered how Daniel helped another student who dropped her pencils. He remembered Daniel's beautiful drawings and his encyclopedic knowledge of dinosaurs. He was a good kid, Mr. Park said quietly. He struggled sometimes, but he was improving. "Did you implement his IEP accommodations?" Mr. Park looked down at his hands. This was the moment of truth. He could lie and protect himself. Or he could tell the truth. "No," he finally said. I wanted to. But Principal Thornton told me we didn't have time for all that. She said I needed to focus on the other students. She said if Daniel couldn't keep up, that wasn't our problem. Director Williams wrote something down. "Did Principal Thornton pressure you to document only negative behaviors?" "Yes." The word came out as barely a whisper. She wanted documentation to justify removing him. "I'm so ashamed. I should have stood up for Daniel. But I was afraid of losing my job." The interviews continued all morning. The school counselor, Ms. Rodriguez, admitted that Principal Thornton told her not to provide Daniel with his approved sensory breaks. The special education teacher said she was not allowed to work with Daniel as much as his IEP required. Teacher after teacher revealed the same story. They wanted to help Daniel, but Principal Thornton made it impossible. At lunchtime, the investigators gathered in the conference room. They spread out documents across the table. The evidence was overwhelming. "Look at this," one investigator said. He pointed to an email from Principal Thornton to the teachers. It was dated 3 weeks before standardized testing. The email said, "We need to improve our school's performance scores this year. Students who cannot perform at grade level are holding us back. Please identify students who might benefit from alternative placements before testing begins." Another investigator pulled up the school's budget reports. Roosevelt Elementary received full funding for special education resources. But look at this. Almost none of that money was spent on actual services for disabled students. Where did it go? Director Williams looked through more files. Daniel isn't the only one. Look. Here's another student with autism who left the school last year. Here's a student with dyslexia who was also pushed out. There's a pattern here. By afternoon, other parents began showing up at the school. Word had spread about the investigation. Mrs. Johnson came with her son's file. Her son Marcus had dyslexia. The school told her he did not qualify for services, but his testing showed he clearly did qualify. Mr. and Mrs. Kim came with their daughter's records. Their daughter Sophia used a wheelchair. The school said she could not participate in field trips or PE class because of safety concerns, but they never tried to make accommodations for her. One by one, parents shared their stories. The investigators took notes on everything. The pattern became clearer. Roosevelt Elementary had been systematically denying services to disabled students for years. At 3 o'clock, Director Williams called Principal Thornton into the conference room. Margaret sat down. Her confident demeanor from this morning was completely gone. She looked small and scared. Principal Thornton, based on our investigation today, we have found serious violations of federal disability rights law, Director Williams said. You failed to implement required IEP accommodations. You misused special education funding. You created a hostile environment for disabled students. You pressured staff to document only negative behaviors to justify removing protected students. I was trying to help the other students, Margaret said weakly, the ones who actually wanted to learn. Disabled students have the same right to a free and appropriate public education as every other child, Director Williams said. Her voice was hard as steel. That is federal law. You violated that law repeatedly and deliberately. What happens now? Margaret asked. You are being placed on immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. You are not to access school records, contact staff members about this case, or return to school property without authorization. The district superintendent has been notified. You may face professional sanctions, including the suspension or revocation of your teaching license. Margaret felt like the floor was falling out from under her. Her career, everything she had worked for, it was all crashing down. But I've been a principal for 15 years, she said. I've won awards. I've improved test scores. You improved test scores by pushing out the students who needed help the most, Director Williams said. You failed in your most basic duty as an educator. Margaret left the school that afternoon carrying a box with her personal items. Teachers watched from the windows. No one said goodbye. She got into her car and sat there for a long time. She thought about Daniel Chen, that little boy with his blue blanket and his dinosaur drawings. She had thought he was the problem, but maybe she was the problem all along. Back in the conference room, Director Williams made a phone call. She dialed Sarah Chen's number. It had been included in the complaint email. Sarah was at home with Daniel. When her phone rang, she almost did not answer, but she saw it was from an unknown number with a government area code. Hello? She answered nervously. Ms. Chen, this is Director Patricia Williams from the State Department of Education. I need to speak with you about your son Daniel. Sarah's heart started racing. Okay. Ms. Chen, I want you to know that we take your complaint very seriously. We conducted an investigation at Roosevelt Elementary today. What we found was deeply troubling. Your son's civil rights were violated, but I need you to know something else. Sarah held her breath. Your son Daniel is the one who contacted us. What? That's impossible. I wrote an email yesterday, but I deleted it. I didn't send it. Your son recovered it from the computer's trash folder, Director Williams said. He sent it late last night, and he added his own note. He wrote, "Please help my mom. She cries every night because of me." Sarah put her hand over her mouth. Tears poured down her face. Her brave, beautiful boy. He had heard her crying. He had tried to fix it. He had saved himself when she could not. Ms. Chen, are you still there? Director Williams asked. Yes, Sarah said through her tears. I'm here. The district superintendent wants to meet with you tomorrow morning. Please come to the district office at 9 o'clock. We have a lot to discuss about Daniel's future and about the future of Roosevelt Elementary. After they hung up, Sarah went to Daniel's room. He was building with his blocks. He looked up at her with worried eyes. Am I in trouble? He asked. I used your computer without asking. Sarah knelt down and pulled him into her arms. She held him so tight. No, baby, you're not in trouble. You're the bravest person I know. You saved yourself. You saved other kids too. Daniel did not fully understand, but he knew his mom was not sad anymore. That was good enough for him. That night, Sarah could barely sleep. Tomorrow would bring answers. Tomorrow would bring changes. She did not know exactly what would happen, but for the first time in months she felt hope. Real hope. Sarah was sitting at her kitchen table trying to figure out what to do next. She had spent all morning calling special education advocates. Most of them were too busy or too expensive. She had $300 in her bank account. That would barely cover groceries for the week. Her phone rang. The caller ID said district office. Sarah's hands started shaking. Were they calling to tell her she was in trouble for filing the complaint? Hello, she answered. Ms. Chen, this is James Coe, the assistant superintendent. I'm calling to apologize, Sarah blinked. Apologize? Yes. On behalf of the entire district, I am deeply sorry for what happened to Daniel. What Principal Thornton did was wrong. It was illegal, and we take full responsibility. Sarah did not know what to say. She had expected them to fight her, to defend the school, to tell her she was the problem. I need you to come to the district office tomorrow morning at 9, Mr. Coe continued. We have a proposal for Daniel. Please bring him with you if you can. After they hung up, Sarah sat in stunned silence. A proposal? What kind of proposal? She looked at Daniel. He was watching his favorite dinosaur documentary. He looked so peaceful. She did not want to get his hopes up. Not yet. Not until she knew what the district really wanted. But word about Daniel's case was already spreading. That afternoon, Sarah's neighbor, Mrs. Martinez, knocked on the door. She brought a casserole for dinner. I saw the news, Mrs. Martinez said. That school should be ashamed. If you need anything, you just ask. The news? Sarah asked. Mrs. Martinez pulled out her phone. She showed Sarah the local news website. The headline read, 8-year-old boy's email triggers state investigation into school discrimination. The article explained everything. How Daniel had sent the email, how the state investigators came, how they found evidence of widespread discrimination. The story was everywhere. On Facebook, on Twitter, on the evening news. Sarah's phone started ringing constantly. Other parents wanted to talk to her. Reporters wanted interviews. Strangers sent messages of support. It was overwhelming. That evening, Mrs. Johnson called. She was Marcus's mother. Marcus was the boy with dyslexia who had been denied services. Sarah, we need to meet, Mrs. Johnson said. All of us. All the parents whose kids were hurt by that school. They organized a meeting at the community center for the next evening. Sarah did not know what to expect. Maybe 10 parents would come, maybe less. But when she arrived at the community center, the parking lot was full. Inside, more than 50 parents packed the room. Some had their children with them. Sarah recognized some faces from Roosevelt Elementary. Others she had never seen before. Mrs. Johnson stood at the front of the room. Thank you all for coming. We're here because of what happened to Daniel Chen. But his story is not unique. How many of you have similar stories? Hands went up all over the room. One by one, parents stood and shared. Mr. Harrison spoke about his daughter Emily, who had ADHD. The school said she was just badly behaved. They suspended her 5 times before he finally pulled her out. Mrs. Lee talked about her son who had anxiety. The school said he was being manipulative when he had panic attacks. They told her to medicate him or find another school. A father named Robert shared how his son with Down syndrome was isolated in a separate classroom away from other students. They said it was for his own good. But his son just wanted friends. The stories went on and on. Each one broke Sarah's heart a little more. So many children had been hurt. So many parents had fought alone. So many families had felt helpless. We need to do something, Mrs. Johnson said. We can't let this keep happening. A woman in the back stood up. My name is Lisa Martinez. I'm an education attorney. I work with families like yours. When I heard about Daniel's case, I knew I had to help. Lisa explained that what Roosevelt Elementary did was not just wrong. It was illegal. Schools had to provide services to disabled students. It was federal law. When they failed to do that, they could face serious consequences. I want to help you, Lisa said, looking at Sarah. Free of charge. Your case is strong, and it can help change things for all these families. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. Thank you, but I don't even know if Daniel wants to go back to that school. That's your choice to make, Lisa said, but you should know that the district is scared right now. They know they broke the law. That gives you power. Use it to make sure this never happens again. The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, they had formed a parent support group. They exchanged phone numbers. They promised to help each other. For the first time, these parents did not feel alone. Meanwhile, at Roosevelt Elementary, teachers were having their own difficult conversations. In the teacher's lounge, Mr. Park sat with Ms. Rodriguez, the counselor, and several other teachers. "I can't believe we let this happen," Mr. Park said. He put his head in his hands. "I knew what Thornton was doing was wrong, but I said nothing. I did nothing." "We were all scared," Ms. Rodriguez said. She had complete control. "If we spoke up, we risked our jobs. But that little boy risked everything," Mr. Park said. "An 8-year-old child was braver than all of us combined. How do we live with that?" The teachers sat in uncomfortable silence. They all felt ashamed. They had become teachers to help children, but when it mattered most, they had failed. "We can't change the past," said Mrs. Kim, a third-grade teacher, "but we can do better now. We can make sure this never happens again." "How?" Mr. Park asked. "We start by admitting what we did wrong. Then we learn, we change. We become the teachers these kids deserve." At Daniel's apartment, the boy himself was confused by all the attention. His mom's phone kept ringing. People kept knocking on the door. Someone left flowers outside their apartment. A local bakery sent cookies. "Mom, why are people being so nice?" Daniel asked. Sarah sat down next to him. "Because you did something very brave. You helped a lot of people." "I just wanted to help you," Daniel said. "You were sad." "I don't like it when you're sad." Sarah pulled him close. "I know, baby. And you did help me. You helped me more than you know." That night, Daniel's classmate Emma and her mom came to visit. Emma carried a big poster. On it, she had drawn dinosaurs and written, "We miss you, Daniel," in colorful letters. Other students had signed it with their names and messages. "Everyone in class wants you to come back," Emma said. "It's not the same without you." Daniel looked at the poster. He touched the drawings gently. "Really, they miss me?" "Of course they do," Emma said. "You're our friend. You know everything about dinosaurs. You help people when they drop things. You draw the best pictures. We need you." After Emma left, Daniel showed his mom the poster. "Maybe school wasn't all bad," he said quietly. Sarah had been so focused on the bad things that she forgot about the good. Yes, Principal Thornton was cruel. Yes, the system failed Daniel. But there were also kind teachers like Mr. Park. There were friends like Emma. There were classmates who cared. The next morning, Sarah got ready for the meeting at the district office. She dressed Daniel in his favorite shirt with dinosaurs on it. She packed his blue blanket in case he needed it. Attorney Lisa Martinez met them in the parking lot. "Remember, you don't have to accept anything you're not comfortable with. This is about what's best for Daniel." They walked into the building together. The district office was big and formal. It smelled like carpet cleaner and coffee. A secretary led them to a large conference room. Sarah expected maybe 2 or 3 people. But when she opened the door, the room was full. Assistant Superintendent James Coe sat at the head of the table. Next to him was the district's special education director. 2 state investigators were there, and Mr. Park sat in the corner looking nervous. "Ms. Chen, please sit," Mr. Coe said. He smiled at Daniel. "Hello, Daniel. I'm Mr. Coe. I'm very glad to meet you." Daniel hid behind his mom a little, but he waved shyly. "Ms. Chen, we asked you here today because we want to make things right," Mr. Coe began. "What happened to Daniel was unacceptable. We failed him. We failed you, and we want to do better." He slid some papers across the table. "This is our proposal. First, we want to offer Daniel immediate reinstatement at Roosevelt Elementary with full implementation of his IEP. We will provide additional compensatory services to make up for what he missed. We will assign a new special education coordinator specifically to Roosevelt Elementary to ensure compliance. We will conduct a complete IEP audit for every student with disabilities at the school, and we will provide mandatory disability awareness training for all staff." Sarah looked at the papers. It all sounded good, too good. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Mr. Coe said. "We're also offering a formal apology and complete removal of the expulsion from Daniel's record, as if it never happened." Attorney Lisa read through the papers carefully. She whispered to Sarah, "This is a good offer. But the question is, does Daniel want to go back?" Everyone looked at Daniel. The little boy was drawing on a piece of paper with a crayon someone had given him. He looked up when he realized they were all staring. "Daniel," Sarah said gently, "how would you feel about going back to Roosevelt Elementary?" Daniel thought about it. He thought about Emma and his other friends. He thought about his desk by the window. He thought about Mr. Park's science lessons. But he also thought about Principal Thornton and how scared she made him feel. "Is the mean lady still there?" he asked. "No," Mr. Coe said firmly. "Principal Thornton is gone. She will not be coming back." "Can I think about it?" Daniel asked. "Can I see the school first?" Mr. Coe smiled. "Of course." "That's very smart. Would you like to visit tomorrow after school hours when it's quiet?" Daniel nodded. They scheduled a tour for the next day. As they left the building, Sarah felt overwhelmed. So much was happening so fast. A week ago, her son was expelled with nowhere to go. Now the district was begging him to come back. "What do you think?" Sarah asked Lisa. "I think they're scared," Lisa said. "And they should be. But I also think they're genuine about wanting to change. The question is whether Daniel feels safe there. That would be answered tomorrow during the tour. For now, Sarah just wanted to go home and rest. She was tired, so tired. But she was also grateful. Grateful for Daniel's courage. Grateful for the community's support. Grateful that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. The next afternoon, Sarah and Daniel pulled into the Roosevelt Elementary parking lot. The building looked the same as always. Red brick walls. Big windows. A playground to the side. But somehow it felt different now. Mr. Coe was waiting at the entrance with a woman Sarah had not met before. She was young, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Miss Chen Daniel, this is Dr. Helen Okafor. She's our new acting principal while we search for someone permanent," Mr. Coe said. Dr. Okafor knelt down to Daniel's level. She did not get too close, which Daniel appreciated. "Hi, Daniel. I've heard a lot about you, especially about how much you love dinosaurs. Did you know that fossils have been found right here in our state?" Daniel's eyes lit up. "Really? What kind?" "I believe they found hadrosaur teeth. That's a duck-billed dinosaur. But I'm not the expert, you are. Maybe you could teach me sometime?" Daniel smiled a little. He liked when adults listened to his dinosaur facts instead of telling him to be quiet. They walked into the school. It was strange being there when no students were around. The hallways were quiet. Their footsteps echoed. Daniel held his mom's hand tight. "We've made some changes," Dr. Okafor said. "Would you like to see?" She led them to a room Daniel had never seen before. It was small and painted in soft blue colors. There were beanbag chairs, soft lighting, fidget toys on shelves, a noise-canceling headphone station, weighted blankets in a basket. "This is our new sensory room," Dr. Okafor explained. "Any student can use it when they need a break. No questions asked. No permission needed. If the world feels too loud or too bright or too much, they can come here." Daniel walked in slowly. He touched a soft blue blanket. It was like his blanket at home. He sat in a beanbag chair. It felt safe. "This is nice," he said quietly. "I'm glad you like it," Dr. Okafor said. "We should have had this years ago. I'm sorry we didn't." They continued the tour. In the hallway, there were new visual schedules on the walls. Pictures showing what would happen during the day. Daniel liked knowing what to expect. Surprises were hard for him. When they reached Daniel's old classroom, Mr. Park was waiting. He looked nervous. His hands were shaking a little. "Hi, Daniel," Mr. Park said. His voice was soft. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Daniel looked at his mom. Sarah nodded. "It's okay." Mr. Park knelt down. "Daniel, I need to say I'm sorry. I should have helped you more. I should have stood up for you. I was wrong. You deserved better from me." Daniel did not really understand why Mr. Park was apologizing, but he could see that Mr. Park was sad and meant what he said. "It's okay," Daniel said. "Are you still my teacher?" "If you come back, yes. And I promise I'll do better. I've been learning about how to help students like you. Students who are smart and kind but just need things explained differently sometimes." Mr. Park showed them the classroom. It looked different too. There were different kinds of chairs now. Some students could sit on bouncy balls if that helped them focus. There were fidget tools in a basket on each table. The lights had special covers to make them less bright. "And look here," Mr. Park said. He pointed to Daniel's old desk by the window. It was covered with cards, dozens of them, all from students in the class. Daniel walked over and picked one up. It had a drawing of a T-Rex. "We miss you, Daniel. Come back." From Emma. Another one said, "You're the best at drawing." From Jake. Another said, "Who will tell us dinosaur facts if you don't come back?" From Maria. Daniel looked through all the cards. His eyes got watery. "They really want me to come back?" "They really do," Mr. Park said. "You're part of our class. We're not complete without you." Sarah felt her own eyes filling with tears. She had been so focused on protecting Daniel from the people who hurt him. She forgot about all the people who cared about him. They walked to the gym. The PE teacher, Coach Williams, was there. Daniel usually hated PE. It was too loud and too chaotic. The echoes hurt his ears. "Hey, Daniel," Coach Williams said. "I wanted to show you something." He showed Daniel a pair of noise-reducing earmuffs. "These help block out the loud sounds. You can wear them during gym if you want. And if you need to take a break, just let me know." "No problem. Really?" Daniel asked. He put on the earmuffs. The world got quieter. He smiled. Next, they visited the cafeteria. The lunch lady, Mrs. Garcia, had always been nice to Daniel. She saved him a chocolate milk every day because she knew it was his favorite. "Daniel, I've missed you," Mrs. Garcia said. She gave him a chocolate milk. "This one's on me." They sat down at one of the lunch tables. Daniel drank his milk. Sarah sat next to him. Dr. Okafor and Mr. Ko sat across from them. "Daniel, I want you to know something important," Dr. Okafor said. "What happened to you was not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. We failed you, and I promise you that will not happen again." "But what if I make mistakes?" Daniel asked. "What if I get too loud or knock things over or can't sit still?" "Then we'll help you," Dr. Okafor said simply. That's what schools are supposed to do. Help students learn and grow, including learning how to handle big feelings and difficult moments. What if kids are mean to me? Then we'll handle it. No one should be mean to anyone. That's a rule for everyone. Daniel was quiet for a long time. He swung his legs under the table. Sarah waited. She would not push him. This had to be his choice. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Can Mom stay with me? For the first few days? Just until I feel brave again?" Mr. Ko nodded immediately. "Absolutely. Your mom can stay as long as you need. We can work out a transition plan. Maybe she stays for full days at first, then half days, then just drop off and pick up. Whatever makes you feel safe." Daniel looked at his mom. "What do you think?" Sarah's heart was so full she could barely speak. "I think you are the bravest person I know, and I will support whatever you decide." "I want to try," Daniel said. "I miss Emma, I miss my desk. I miss learning about science with Mr. Park, but I'm scared." "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared," Dr. Okafor said gently. "Being brave means doing something even when you are scared. And you've already shown how brave you are." They talked about the details. Daniel would start back on Monday. Sarah would take time off from her nursing job. She worked night shifts so she could sleep during the day and be at school with Daniel in the morning. They would do this for 2 weeks, then see how Daniel felt. Mr. Ko also explained that the district was providing extra services to Daniel. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, counseling to help him process what happened. All free, all part of making things right. As they prepared to leave, Mr. Park stopped them. "Daniel, I have something for you." He handed Daniel a book. It was a big book about dinosaurs. A new one Daniel had never seen before. "I thought you might like this," Mr. Park said. "It has pictures of the fossils found in our state. The hadrosaurs Dr. Okafor mentioned." Daniel hugged the book to his chest. "Thank you." On the drive home, Daniel was quiet. He looked out the window. He held his new dinosaur book. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked. "I think so," Daniel said. "Everyone was really nice. But I'm still a little scared." "That's okay. I'm a little scared too." "You are?" Daniel looked surprised. "But you're a grown-up. Grown-ups get scared too. But we can be scared together, and we can be brave together." When they got home, Sarah called attorney Lisa Martinez to tell her about the visit. "It sounds like the district is really trying," Lisa said. "But I'll keep monitoring the situation. If anything goes wrong, we can take action." That evening, Sarah posted in the parent support group they had formed. She told them about the tour, about the changes at the school, about Daniel's decision to go back. The responses came flooding in. Parents congratulated Daniel on his bravery. They asked questions about the sensory room and the new accommodations. Several parents said they were going to request similar things at their children's schools. Mrs. Johnson wrote, "Daniel is changing everything. Not just for himself, but for all our kids. This is what hope looks like. That night, Sarah tucked Daniel into bed. He had his blue blanket and his new dinosaur book. "Mom," Daniel said sleepily. "Yes, baby? I'm glad I sent that email. Even though I was scared. Because now things are better." "Me too," Sarah said. She kissed his forehead. "I'm so proud of you. Will you stay with me at school?" "You promise?" "I promise. Every day for as long as you need me." Daniel smiled and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep. Sarah sat in her own room and thought about everything that had happened. 1 week ago, her son was expelled. She felt helpless and defeated. She had no idea what to do, but Daniel found a way. Her 8-year-old son with autism, who struggled with loud noises and bright lights and unexpected changes. He was the one who saved them both. She thought about all the parents in the support group, all the children who had been hurt by schools that did not understand them, all the families fighting alone. Things were changing, slowly but changing, because one little boy was brave enough to ask for help. Sarah pulled out her phone. She looked at the email Daniel had sent to the state. His words were simple and direct. "Please help my mom. She cries every night because of me." He was wrong about one thing, though. She never cried because of him. She cried because of a system that failed him. She cried because she felt powerless to protect him, but she was not powerless, and neither was he. Together, they were changing things. Monday would be Daniel's first day back at Roosevelt Elementary. Sarah was nervous, but she was also hopeful. Real, genuine hope. Things would not be perfect. There would still be hard days. But now they had support. Now they had people who cared. Now they had a school that was actually trying to do better. And most importantly, they had each other, a small family of 2 facing the world together, scared sometimes, but always brave, always moving forward. Monday morning came too fast. Sarah had barely slept. She kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong. What if the other kids were mean? What if Daniel had a meltdown? What if the teachers did not really follow through with their promises? Daniel was already awake when she checked on him. He was sitting on his bed with his blue blanket looking at his dinosaur book. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "I don't know," Daniel said honestly. "My stomach feels funny." "Mine too." "That's called being nervous." "It's normal." They got dressed slowly. Daniel wore his favorite dinosaur shirt and his comfortable jeans with no tags that scratched. Sarah packed his sensory blanket in his backpack, just in case. When they arrived at Roosevelt Elementary, the parking lot was already filling up with cars. Parents were dropping off their children. Kids were running and laughing. It looked like a normal school morning. But for Daniel and Sarah, nothing felt normal. Dr. Okafor was waiting at the entrance. She smiled when she saw them. "Good morning, Daniel." "Good morning, Ms. Chen. Welcome back." She walked them to Daniel's classroom. Other students were arriving. When Emma saw Daniel, she ran over and gave him a gentle hug. She knew Daniel did not like hard squeezes. "You're back. I saved you a seat next to me," Emma said. Other kids gathered around. Some said hi. Some welcomed him back. A few looked curious about why Daniel's mom was there, but no one was mean. Mr. Park greeted them warmly. "Daniel, I'm so glad you're here. We have science this morning. We're learning about ecosystems." He showed Sarah where she could sit in the back of the classroom. He gave her some papers to look at while the class worked, so she would not just be staring at Daniel the whole time. The morning started with the daily schedule on the board. Mr. Park used picture symbols now, along with the words. This helped Daniel and other students know what to expect. First was reading time. Daniel sat next to Emma. They were reading a book about ocean animals. Daniel knew a lot about prehistoric ocean creatures, so he shared facts. Emma listened and asked questions, then came math. Daniel struggled a bit with multiplication. His mind wandered. But Mr. Park noticed and came over quietly. "How about you use these counting blocks? They might help you see the pattern." The blocks helped. Daniel finished his work. He felt proud. Before science, Mr. Park announced it was time for a brain break. The whole class stood up and did stretches. They moved around. This helped Daniel and many other students refocus. During science, Mr. Park talked about food chains. Daniel raised his hand. He was nervous but brave. "Yes, Daniel," Mr. Park said. "Can I tell everyone about prehistoric food chains? Like what dinosaurs ate? That's a great idea." "Go ahead," Daniel stood up. His voice was shaky at first. But as he talked about T-Rex being a predator and Triceratops eating plants, his confidence grew. The other kids listened. They asked questions. They were interested. Sarah watched from the back with tears in her eyes. This was what school should be. This was Daniel being himself and being accepted. At lunch, Daniel used his noise-reducing earmuffs in the cafeteria. A few kids asked about them. Daniel explained that loud sounds hurt his ears sometimes. One boy named Marcus said, "Oh, that's cool. Can I try them?" Daniel let him. Marcus said, "Wow, everything is quieter. That must really help. No one made fun of him." The earmuffs were just a tool, like someone wearing glasses. After lunch, Daniel started feeling overwhelmed. There was a lot of noise and activity. He felt his chest getting tight. "Mr. Park," Daniel said quietly, "I need a break." "Of course. Go to the sensory room. Take all the time you need." Daniel went to the quiet room. He wrapped himself in a weighted blanket. He rocked back and forth gently. After 15 minutes, he felt better. He went back to class. Mr. Park did not scold him. He did not make a big deal. He just smiled and said, "Glad you're back." At the end of the day, Sarah asked Daniel how he felt. "It was good," he said. "I was scared at first, but everyone was nice, and when I needed a break, I got one." The first week continued like this. Some days were easier than others. On Wednesday, a substitute teacher did not follow Daniel's IEP properly. She told him to stop humming and pay attention. Daniel got upset. He started crying. Sarah immediately stepped in. "Excuse me, but humming is how Daniel concentrates. It's in his IEP." The substitute looked confused. "I didn't see any IEP." Sarah went straight to Dr. Okafor. The principal was apologetic. "This is my fault. I should have briefed the substitute better. I'll handle this." Dr. Okafor talked to the substitute privately. She made sure the teacher understood Daniel's accommodations. Then she apologized to Daniel personally. "I made a mistake by not preparing your substitute properly. That won't happen again. I'm sorry you were upset." Daniel appreciated that Dr. Okafor took responsibility instead of blaming him. By the second week, Sarah started staying only half days. She would leave after lunch. Daniel was okay with this. He felt safer now. He knew the school would help him if he needed it. The changes at Roosevelt Elementary were spreading beyond just Daniel's classroom. The new special education coordinator, Dr. Patel, was observing every classroom in the school. She met with teachers regularly. She provided training on how to support all kinds of learners. She made sure every student's IEP was actually being followed. Universal design for learning became the new approach. This meant making lessons accessible to everyone from the start. Not just helping struggling students after they failed, but preventing them from struggling in the first place. All classrooms now had fidget tools available, not just for Daniel or students with IEPs, but for everyone. Many kids who did not have diagnosed conditions benefited from being able to move or fidget while learning. Movement breaks happened school-wide. Every class took short breaks to stretch or walk around. This reduced behavioral problems across the board. The sensory room was available to all students. Kids who were having bad days could take breaks. No stigma, no punishment. Just support. Monthly IEP meetings changed too. Before they were tense. Parents felt attacked. Teachers felt defensive. Now Dr. Okafor made them collaborative. "We're all on the same team," she would say. "Team helping this child succeed." Parents of other students with disabilities started speaking up. Mrs. Johnson advocated for better services for Marcus and his dyslexia. The school provided them. Mr. and Mrs. Kim requested accommodations for Sophia, their daughter who used a wheelchair. The school made changes to include her in all activities. One by one, students who had been pushed aside were brought back into the fold. Sarah watched all of this happen with amazement. She had just wanted her son to be treated fairly. She had no idea it would start a revolution. She joined the district's new parent advisory committee. Other parents of disabled students were on it too. They met monthly to discuss what was working and what needed improvement. Attorney Lisa Martinez attended these meetings sometimes. She made sure the district kept its promises, but mostly she just watched with satisfaction. Her pro bono case had created real change. In the parent support group, stories of hope started replacing stories of frustration. Parents shared strategies. They celebrated victories. They supported each other through setbacks. Not everyone's situation improved overnight. Some schools were slower to change than Roosevelt Elementary, but the state investigation had put all schools on notice. They had to follow the law. They had to serve disabled students properly. Mr. Park went through major personal growth during this time. He took online classes about inclusive education. He read books about autism and ADHD and sensory processing. He wanted to understand his students better. He started a mentoring program. He helped other teachers learn how to support diverse learners. He became an advocate instead of just following orders. One afternoon, Mr. Park asked Sarah if he could talk to her after school. She agreed, though she was nervous about what he might want. "I just wanted to tell you something," Mr. Park said. His eyes were serious. "I became a teacher because I wanted to help kids, all kids. But somewhere along the way I lost sight of that. I got scared and just followed orders, even when those orders hurt students like Daniel." He paused. His voice got thick with emotion. "What happened to Daniel and my part in it will haunt me for the rest of my life. But it also woke me up. I'm a better teacher now because of what I learned from this experience. I just wanted you to know that, and to thank you and Daniel for having the courage I didn't have." Sarah did not know what to say. She was still angry about what happened. But she could also see that Mr. Park genuinely changed. He was doing the work to be better. "Thank you for telling me that," she finally said. "And thank you for really showing up for Daniel now. That matters." Meanwhile, the story of what happened to Principal Thornton spread through the education community. Her teaching license was suspended for 3 years. She would have to go through extensive retraining if she ever wanted to work in education again. Some people felt sorry for her. They thought the punishment was too harsh. Others felt it was justice, a clear message that discriminating against disabled students had real consequences. Sarah felt neither satisfaction nor sympathy. She just felt tired, and grateful it was over. Daniel continued to grow more confident. He made more friends. He participated in class. He used his supports when needed without shame. One day in November, Daniel came home excited. "Mom, guess what? We're doing a science fair, and I want to do my project on dinosaur fossils." Sarah helped him plan his project. They went to the library and checked out books. They looked at pictures of fossils online. Daniel created a poster showing different types of dinosaurs and where their fossils had been found. On Science Fair Day, Daniel stood by his poster proudly. He wore his dinosaur shirt. His sensory blanket was in his backpack just in case, but he did not need it. Students, teachers, and parents walked around looking at projects. Many stopped to talk to Daniel. He explained his poster enthusiastically. He was not too loud or too quiet. He was just himself, and that was perfect. Dr. Okafor stopped by Daniel's project. "This is wonderful, Daniel. You clearly know so much about dinosaurs." "Thank you," Daniel said. Then he added, "Dr. Okafor, I'm glad you're the principal now." Dr. Okafor smiled. "I'm glad I get to be here with students like you, Daniel." That evening, Sarah tucked Daniel into bed. He was exhausted but happy. "Mom, remember when I got expelled?" Daniel asked. "Yes, baby. I'm glad that happened." Sarah was shocked. "What? Why?" "Because if it didn't happen, the school wouldn't have changed. And other kids would still be sad like I was. So even though it was scary and sad, something good came from it." Sarah looked at her son in wonder. When had he become so wise? He was only 8 years old, but he understood something important. Sometimes painful experiences lead to growth and change. "You're right," Sarah said. "You turned something bad into something good. That's pretty amazing." Daniel smiled sleepily. "We did it together, Mom, you and me." "Yes, we did, baby. You and me." As Daniel drifted off to sleep, Sarah sat in her room and reflected on everything. 4 months ago, she was broken and defeated. Now she was part of a community working to make schools better for all children. Her life was far from perfect. Money was still tight. Work was still exhausting. Being a single parent was still hard, but Daniel was happy. He was learning. He was thriving, and that made everything worth it. 3 months later, spring arrived. The trees around Roosevelt Elementary burst with green leaves and pink blossoms. The playground filled with children's laughter every recess. Everything looked bright and hopeful. Sarah stood in the parent pickup area waiting for Daniel. She watched him run across the playground with Emma and 2 other friends. They were playing their invented dinosaur game. Daniel was a velociraptor. Emma was a triceratops. Marcus was a pterodactyl, and a girl named Lily was a stegosaurus. Daniel was laughing. Really, truly laughing. The sound made Sarah's heart swell. "It's amazing, isn't it?" a voice said beside her. Sarah turned to see Mrs. Johnson, Marcus's mother. They had become friends through the parent support group. "It really is," Sarah agreed. 6 months ago, I couldn't imagine Daniel this happy at school. "None of us could imagine our kids thriving here," Mrs. Johnson said. "But look at them now." The changes at Roosevelt Elementary had become permanent. The school was not perfect, but it was better. Much better. Test scores had not dropped like some people feared. In fact, they had improved slightly. When all students got the support they needed, everyone did better. Student behavioral problems decreased by 60%. When kids were not frustrated and overwhelmed, they did not act out as much. Teacher retention improved too. Teachers felt supported instead of pressured. They could actually help their students instead of just worrying about test scores. Dr. Okafor had been made permanent principal after a community vote. Parents, teachers, and even students had voted. They wanted her to stay. She brought kindness and competence to the role. Under her leadership, Roosevelt Elementary became a model school. Other schools in the district sent observers to learn from their inclusive practices. Dr. Okafor welcomed them. She wanted to spread what worked. The state investigation had expanded beyond Roosevelt Elementary. 15 school districts in the state underwent similar reviews. They found problems everywhere. Disabled students being pushed out, IEPs not being followed, special education funding being misused. The state implemented new policies, better oversight of IEP implementation, mandatory disability rights training for all school administrators, whistleblower protections for teachers who reported discrimination. Daniel's case was cited in official state education department guidance documents. His story became an example of why these protections mattered. But for Sarah and Daniel, the biggest changes were personal. Sarah had been able to reduce to just one job. The district had provided a settlement that included funding for Daniel's compensatory education services. It was not a huge amount, but it helped. She could actually sleep more than 4 hours a night now. She joined the district's Special Education Advisory Board. She helped other parents understand their rights. She reviewed policies. She made sure the district kept improving. She also started a support group that met twice a month. Parents of disabled children came to share experiences and advice. What started with 10 people now had over 40 regular members. "You saved us," one mother told Sarah at a recent meeting. "My daughter has autism too. I was about to pull her out of school. But after hearing your story, I fought for her rights instead. And the school is actually helping her now." Stories like that made everything worthwhile. The pain, the fear, the exhaustion. It led somewhere meaningful. Daniel's personal progress was remarkable. He was reading above grade level now. His special interest in paleontology drove him to read complex books and scientific articles. Mr. Park encouraged this and built lessons around Daniel's interests. Daniel had made 3 close friends who truly understood him: Emma, Marcus, and Lily. They accepted his quirks. They thought his dinosaur knowledge was cool. They knew when he needed space and when he needed company. Daniel still had difficult days. His autism and ADHD did not disappear. Some mornings, getting out of bed felt impossible. Some days, the classroom was too bright or too loud. Some moments, his emotions overwhelmed him. But now he had tools to handle these challenges, and he had people who helped him instead of punishing him. He still used the sensory room when needed. He still wore his noise-reducing earmuffs in the cafeteria. He still hummed when he concentrated. But none of these things were problems anymore. They were just part of who Daniel was. One afternoon in late April, Roosevelt Elementary held a special assembly. The theme was, "Differences Make Us Stronger." All the students gathered in the gym. Teachers sat along the sides. Parents were invited too. Sarah sat in the audience, curious about what would happen. Dr. Okafor stood at the front with a microphone. "Good afternoon, everyone. We're gathered today to celebrate something important. We're celebrating that every single person in this school belongs here. Every single person has value. Every single person deserves respect and support." She talked about how the school had changed over the past few months, how they learned to support all kinds of learners, how differences were not problems to fix but strengths to celebrate. We have students who learn differently, students who move differently, students who communicate differently. And that's not just okay, that's wonderful, because we all have different strengths to share. Then she invited students to share what made them unique. Several kids volunteered. One girl talked about her dyslexia and how she was a great artist. A boy talked about his ADHD and how it helped him think creatively. A girl in a wheelchair talked about how she was teaching her classmates about accessibility. Then Dr. Okafor looked right at Daniel. "Daniel, would you like to share something with everyone?" Sarah's heart stopped. She had not known Daniel would be put on the spot. What if he got overwhelmed? What if he froze? But Daniel stood up. He walked to the front of the gym. Dr. Okafor handed him the microphone. Daniel looked at all the faces staring at him. He felt nervous. His hands were sweating. But he thought about how brave he had been when he sent that email. If he could do that, he could do this. "Hi, I'm Daniel. I have autism and ADHD. That means my brain works differently than some people's brains. Sometimes loud noises hurt my ears. Sometimes bright lights hurt my eyes. Sometimes I need breaks when things get too much." He paused. The gym was completely silent. Everyone was listening. But having autism also means I can remember lots of facts about things I love. Like dinosaurs. I can tell you about every dinosaur that ever existed. I can tell you what they ate and where they lived and how big they were. Some kids smiled. They knew about Daniel's dinosaur expertise. I wanted to say that being different is okay. Different doesn't mean bad. It just means different. Like how dinosaurs were all different from each other. Some were big and some were small. Some ate meat and some ate plants. Some lived in water and some lived on land. But they were all dinosaurs. They all belonged. He handed the microphone back to Dr. Okafor. The entire gym erupted in applause. Students clapped and cheered. Teachers stood up. Parents wiped tears from their eyes. Sarah was crying openly. Her baby had stood in front of hundreds of people and shared his truth with confidence and clarity. After the assembly, several younger students approached Daniel. One small boy with big eyes said, "I have ADHD too. I get in trouble a lot." "You shouldn't get in trouble for that," Daniel said. "You should get help." "Like breaks and fidget tools, really?" The boy asked. "Really?" "Tell your teacher. Or tell Dr. Okafor, they'll help you." Sarah watched this interaction. Daniel was not just advocating for himself anymore. He was helping other kids too. That evening, the local news ran a follow-up story on Roosevelt Elementary. They interviewed Dr. Okafor, Mr. Park, and several parents, including Sarah. 6 months ago, this school was failing its most vulnerable students, the reporter said. Today, it's a model of inclusive education. And it all started because one 8-year-old boy was brave enough to ask for help. They showed footage of Daniel at the assembly. They talked about the changes implemented. They discussed how other schools were learning from Roosevelt Elementary's transformation. The story went viral. People across the country shared it. Other parents of disabled children reached out to Sarah for advice. Education advocates cited it as an example of what was possible when schools actually tried. But Sarah and Daniel's life stayed relatively normal. They were not celebrities. They were just a small family doing their best. The biggest change was that they were not alone anymore. They had a community. They had support. They had hope. One evening in May, Sarah was making dinner when Daniel came to her with a serious expression. "Mom, can I ask you something?" He said, "Of course, baby. What is it?" "That little boy from the assembly. The one with ADHD. His mom called me." "Well, she called you, but she wanted to talk to me. She said her son is scared to go to school. Can I talk to him? Can I help him like people helped me?" Sarah knelt down to Daniel's level. "You want to help him?" "Yeah, I remember being scared. I remember feeling like I was the only one. But I wasn't the only one. And he isn't either. Maybe if I tell him my story, he'll feel less scared." Sarah pulled Daniel into a hug. "You are the most compassionate, brave person I know. Yes, you can talk to him." Daniel called the boy that evening. Sarah listened as her son shared his experiences. He talked about the sensory room, about the fidget tools, about how Mr. Park learned to help him better, about how things got better when people understood his needs. "It gets better," Daniel told the boy. "I promise. You just have to be brave and ask for help, and there are lots of grown-ups who will listen now." After the call, Daniel seemed satisfied. "I think I helped him," he said. "I know you did," Sarah said. Over the next few months, Daniel talked to several other children who were struggling at their schools. He became an unofficial peer mentor. Sarah was amazed by his willingness to help others. Attorney Lisa Martinez stayed in touch with Sarah. She continued to monitor Roosevelt Elementary's progress. But mostly she just became a friend. You know what's funny? Lisa said to Sarah one day over coffee. I've worked dozens of education cases. Most of them end with settlements and everyone moves on. But this one actually changed the system. That almost never happens. Why did it happen this time? Sarah asked. Honestly, because Daniel's story was so powerful. An 8-year-old boy sending an email to save his mom. It humanized something that usually stays abstract. People couldn't ignore it. The parent support group continued to grow. They expanded to help families navigate not just schools, but also healthcare, therapy services, and community resources. Sarah found purpose in this work. She had always been a nurse helping people's physical health. Now she was helping families' emotional health and their children's educational futures. Some evenings, Sarah would sit on the couch with Daniel. He would be reading his dinosaur books. She would be reviewing case files for the advisory board. We make a good team, don't we? Daniel would say. The best team, Sarah would agree. Life was not perfect. Money was still tight sometimes. Daniel still had hard days. Sarah still worried about the future. Single parenting was still exhausting. But they were okay. More than okay. They were thriving. The last day of school arrived in June. Students ran around excited for summer. Daniel had completed 3rd grade successfully. His report card showed improvement in all areas. But more importantly, his teacher comments showed he was happy and engaged. Mr. Park wrote, Daniel is a joy to teach. His enthusiasm for learning, especially in science, inspires other students. He has shown remarkable growth this year, not just academically, but in self-advocacy and friendship skills. I'm proud to be his teacher. Dr. Okafor added her own note. Daniel reminds us daily why inclusive education matters. He has taught this school as much as we have taught him. We are better because he is here. Sarah read these comments with tears in her eyes. A year ago, a different principal had expelled Daniel and said he did not belong. Now, a new principal said the school was better because of him. That evening, Sarah and Daniel walked to their neighborhood park. They sat on the swings as the sun began to set. Mom, Daniel said as he swung gently back and forth. Remember when I asked if I did something bad? When I got expelled? I remember. I understand now that I didn't do anything bad. The school just didn't know how to help me yet, and then I helped them learn, right? Sarah smiled through her tears. That's exactly right, baby. So maybe when bad things happen, they can turn into good things. If we're brave enough to try. When did you get so wise? Sarah asked. I learned it from you, Daniel said simply. You never gave up on me. Even when things were really hard. So I didn't give up either. They sat in comfortable silence, swinging slowly, watching the pink and orange sunset paint the sky. Sarah thought about everything that happened. The expulsion that felt like the end of the world. Daniel's brave email sent in the middle of the night. The investigation that changed everything. The hard work of rebuilding trust. The community that formed around shared struggles. The slow but steady progress toward something better. She thought about Principal Thornton, whose career ended because she forgot that every child deserves compassion and support. She wondered if Thornton ever thought about Daniel, if she ever realized what she had lost by being so rigid and cold. But mostly Sarah thought about her son, the boy who loved dinosaurs and hummed when he concentrated, the boy whose brain worked differently but worked beautifully, the boy who changed an entire school system because he wanted to help his mom stop crying.